We've probably all been there, being young, not entirely sure what we want to do with our lives. And then you look up at the teacher who's teaching your class and you think, you know what? They have all their summers off. That sounds pretty good. I think I want to do that for the rest of my life. In today's episode of Teach Bigger, we're talking about what are the good qualities to decide if you should be a teacher or if you should remain being a teacher. This is the Teach Bigger podcast.
Welcome to the Teach Bigger podcast. I'm Chris Pratt.
I'm Chris Mosley.
And I'm Tyler Lamont.
You know, at Teach Bigger, one of the things that we're constantly trying to do is we're looking for great teachers to highlight what they're doing and, get new ideas, new techniques, new tips, and really just create a community here among our listeners. And so today is going to be a really awesome day because we have a special guest that we're going to be bringing on a little bit later in the program. And before we do, though, we kind of want to set up this program so that you get a good feel for kind of the inspiration behind what we're doing. So, we were discussing in our last episode that November, a lot of teachers kind of hit a wall, right? And they get to a point where they're like, they start to question everything, their existence. Like, am I really supposed to be a teacher? Because it'd be a lot better if, and we kind of go through those phases of self-doubt and frustration. And, if you didn't listen to the last episode, I would encourage you to check it out because we definitely give you some mindsets to combat that and some practical steps to avoid the burnout, right? But there's also something else that you can do, and it's kind of take a look at the qualities that you have and kind of realize, like, this is what makes a great teacher. And in addition to that, maybe you're listening to the podcast and you're considering pursuing a teaching career. And so this is kind of an inventory checklist, and by no means is it everything, but it's definitely some things to help you to consider if teaching is for you or if you're in the right place. So I'm going to turn it over to Tyler. And Tyler, why don't you kind of walk us through some of these things that we've been discussing, and let's just kind of look at it a little bit deeper to kind of give our listeners a good feel for, am I doing the right thing, and why is this a good fit for me?
Okay, well, we have these 5 qualities, and I think of these all the time. My principal, I love my principal so much, and she tells us all the time that we have to make hard decisions. And when she makes those hard decisions, she just reminds herself, is this best for kids? Mm-hmm. So then I start thinking about those, like when I have my hard times, when I have my hard things, I'm like, is this best for kids? And then I think, well, I kind of use that same formula. I'm like, well, what makes me a strong teacher? And the first one is if you're patient. If you are naturally a patient person, and you have the ability to kind of wait to hear people out before you make a rash decision. Number 2 is being good at breaking things down, or a good communicator. This is on both levels, the administrator and on the teacher level. Like, you need to be able to break things down for kids, but you also need to be able to break things down when you're communicating to your administration. Or vice versa. You're the administration. You need to be have a good problem-solving skills and breaking things down, so that way you can deliver the information to your teachers and then keep that line of communication open.
Yeah, and Tyler, I would say this. I think a lot of times it's a lot easier to break things down for kids than it is for adults. And so yes. I think that's definitely something to consider in that. So that's a good point.
Especially because of that social dynamic. And then this third one, which I think is probably the biggest one, is the passion for people. Like, you're a people person, and you feel like you have this desire to help people. If you have this passion for people and to help people, and like, I know that this is my biggest, like, why I'm a teacher, because I watch the news and I see that it's bad, and I just think, like, well, how can I make it better? And there's.
No, I was saying, as far as that passion for people, I had a student, and he's a senior now, and he's in that stage where I'm not really sure what I want to do. Mm-hmm. So he's like, Mr. Mosley, I'm thinking about being a band director. I'm like, really? I'm like, okay. He said, I just don't know. I don't know if that's the route I want to go. I don't know if I'll be good at it. I said, okay, so let's break a couple things down. I said, first, do you like working with people? Like, Does it charge you? Like, do you feel like you're patient? But the biggest thing is like, do you like working with people? And he's like, yeah. I said, then I think you'll be fine. I said, because being a teacher, you deal with all different types of people. You have to understand them before you can get anything to them, because it's saying that, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Mm-hmm.
That's tried and true. That's tried and true. And I told him this. I said, so I think the reason I'm successful now is because I care more about them than I care about the music, and because I care about them, the music is better.
Yeah.
So and he said, when I told him that, he was like, oh, okay. So I can learn everything else, but you first have to have appreciation and a passion for people, and that will make you even more effective as a teacher.
Yeah, and Mosley, I want to really kind of give a spin on that, and it is this, that I think for administrators who are listening right now, I think that you have to take that and run with it, because the most successful districts, the most successful campuses are the ones where the administrators care more about the staff than they do about the job. And I have been on campuses where I feel like a number in the system, like a cog in the wheel. I just feel like that I'm there, I'm getting a paycheck, and I'm leaving, because there is not this intrinsic feeling of self-worth from an administrative to teacher level. And guess what? Those campuses are the least successful that I've been on. And then on the other hand, I've been on campuses where people came first and people mattered the most. And those are the districts and those are the campuses that are just like completely soaring. So I think so I think if you're an administrator and you're struggling in your district, maybe people aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. Maybe they're not having integrity, whatever the case may be. I would tell you, like, put on the brakes, stop everything, and start building relationships. But anyways, I had to get that out there because that's powerful.
Yeah. No, I definitely think all that stuff is extremely powerful. The next one is being entertaining or captivating. Like, I think we're all old enough that we've seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and it's like, Bueller. Like, right. That teacher's obviously not entertaining. He's not captivating those kids.
However, that's like movie magic right there, because that is actually a very entertaining scene, and that's the scene that's like most quoted by everyone. So actually is a little bit funny because that's actually really captivating, but for a totally different reason.
I have a lot to say about this one.
Okay.
Because I also think that's why I am okay, like, I don't say successful, like, to my own horn, but like, that's why I'm okay wherever I go, because I took the personality test and mine came back the entertainer. I kid you not. So, like, I find it comfortable to be in front of people and to engage them and to make them laugh and stuff like that. And I found, like, at the end of the day and at the end of a class, I burned so many calories. My heart rate is up because I'm doing so much, like, in front of the room to keep the kids captivated. It doesn't matter if I want to do it or not.
Yeah.
And I call it kind of like edutain. And I have a colleague, and he's not a captivating and our entertainer, and so it's a huge difference, And I'm trying to tell them, like, you have to do that to engage them so they want to listen. A lot of things is you want to, like, the students, you want to give them information, but you want them to want to listen and, like, hold on to every word that you say. So that is a huge part of being a good educator. I was on a panel and we were hiring for a program director, and I had a category. One of my biggest categories was captivating. If they were captivating, enthusiastic. And I rated them based off of that. And they asked me at the end, I was like, because I am a program director also, I want somebody who is going to make me believe in a vision that they have and make me want to follow them. And so if that's not it, then it's kind of hard, and that's all we do as teachers. So there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the end of the day, we are content creators, and you have to be able to hold their attention. You have to be able to hold their attention span. The fifth one is self-driven and high self-standards. I think this is another really huge one too, because a lot of times teachers, like, and we've talked about it a lot, they stay late, they do things, they'll go out and buy their own supplies to do their own things to make things happen in their classroom. Maybe the school is making you teach out of a textbook and you don't want to, so, like, you're having to recreate lessons or whatever. Like, you're going the extra mile, and you're doing it not just because you want to, but because you know it's best for kids, you know that you know what needs to get done. So you're just gonna get it done, kind of deal.
And in our field, sometimes we're giving things that are clear as mud, and you have to figure it out yourself. So like, here's what we want you to do, teachers, and you don't totally have everything figured out. And so you as a teacher, you have to kind of have a high standard for yourself if you want things to go well in your classroom, because a lot of times they will just kind of give you a blueprint of what to do, kind of, and not exactly what to do. But you as an educator have to hold yourself to a higher standard to make it what you want it for the kids. So I know a lot of teachers that they're really good at having super high standards. They're hard on themselves, and that's why we're stressed out.
Yeah. So to kind of recap, wherever you may be, maybe you're considering pursuing a teaching career, or maybe you've been teaching for 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, and you're going like, is this the best fit for me? Like, do I want this to be what I do? I think these 5 considerations, definitely, if you have one or more of these qualities, then know that, the odds are in your favor, that this is going to help you in that. So, if you're a patient person, you're good at communicating and breaking things down, you have a passion for people, you're entertaining or captivating, and you're self-driven and you have high standards. And maybe one of those things you're not as good at. That doesn't mean that you're not going to be good at this profession. Maybe that's just where you focus in on, building. So, I hope that every listener is kind of considering that. And, if you go, I'm not any of those things. Well, if you still want to be a teacher, then be a teacher, but definitely realize that you have some things going for you, because these are some traits that really equip you to be successful in the classroom. So, all right. So our guest today, we're super excited. Our guest today is Billie Parker.
I personally think has all 5 of these categories maxed out.
For sure, to the max, right? So I'll go ahead, Tyler. You can introduce.
Okay, so this is our guest. Her name is Billie Parker. She's an elementary school teacher in Arcadia Baptist. Wow, I've been there my whole life, and I still can't say that word. Private school in Santa Fe, Texas. We invite her here because of her amazing journey of how she became an educator, where she's teaching, how it affected her, how she became a teacher, the certification process, and how when she decided she was going to be an educator, a teacher, and how she developed this lifelong passion for this calling for being a teacher. So Billie, you're in it for the summers, right?
Yeah, and the money.
Same, sister, same.
Hey, at a Christian school, I'm in it for the money.
Right. So, that is really unique, Billie, that you're on, because we are getting such a fresh perspective from you because, let's face it, the majority of educators in the United States are probably going to be in the public domain, but you're in the private domain, which is a little different. And so, it'll be interesting to kind of hear, your perception on things and maybe even current events. How has the, COVID and the shutdown and all that affected you guys? And does it look different from, public to private education? But, we just kind of wanted to open it up and get to know you and your story a little bit, because we've heard great things and we know how successful you are both in the classroom and then with your own family. And so I hope that today, your story just inspires some folks to keep moving forward and to really pursue the passion that you're bringing out. So why don't you maybe start by just giving us a little bit of background to our listeners of kind of what your journey looked like and where you came from, so that way we get a good picture of how you got into where you are today.
Sure. So thank you very much. I'm super excited to be here with you guys and to share a little bit. So I wanted to be a teacher from the time I was little. And then when I finally went to college, they kind of forgot to tell me that there was a teacher school. So I had to do an alternative education program, like it or not, but I did get paid that first amount. I worked at a charter school in Galveston. So it was a little bit different again than even the ISDs. I started on the 3rd day of school. My team teacher had already quit due to the behavior in the classroom. So I started on the 3rd day of school as my first day. And then within 2 weeks, my next team teacher had already quit because of behavior issues. So it was an interesting first couple weeks there. And then when I found out I was going to do the internship, the next day we took a weather day for Hurricane Ike. And we're out for 34 days.
Wow. Okay, so I just have to interject here because I'm curious. Like, Can you share with us, even on some level, what were those behavior issues to cause like 2 people to quit within the first week of school? Like, I'm just curious, like, were the kids burning down the school? Like, what was going on?
How old were they? What was the age?
I taught 4th and 5th grade, and I taught science. They just, not very polite or respectful. There was just a lot of, they thought they could run the school, and they thought they could be rude, and they knew they had already made 2 teachers quit. So they thought that, their teacher the year before had quit on them as well.
Wow.
They were like, cool, here's a new one, fresh blood, right? We can make this one suffer too. So there was a lot of trying times and a lot of
but you didn't quit.
And I would definitely say I didn't quit. So being self-driven, like I stayed there late every day, trying to make sure that my lessons were ready for the next day, that my science was captivating. I had a lot of ESL learners that didn't know the definition of photosynthesis that kids do their whole lives. So trying to make the lessons hands-on, that way they would listen, that was the big key there. And just hearing their stories, like you said, being a people person. And I had to know, okay, this kid, he's not bad, he just didn't have breakfast today, you know what I mean? Or this kid's not bad, he just got shut in his room overnight, he just needs somebody that he knows has his back and is going to be there for him, and that school is a safe place. And then once they realized that I was their steadfast, that every day I'm not going to give up on you, I'm not going to go anywhere, then I could kind of earn their trust a little bit and give them that open mind. And I did have to break it all the way down, because he's freshly speaking English off of Sesame Street, so it was a challenge at 9 and 10 years old to not know a lot of basic things.
So I guess the big question is like, why did you stay? Like, why, like, what do you think separated you from those other teachers that quit?
It's just the type of person it must be, like you said, if you've got these qualities and you're in it for the right reasons and you're in it for the kids, every day I'm in it for the kids. I'm coming back tomorrow because I almost got to that one, or I did get to one and now I'm going to try another. It was just, today nobody yelled, nobody threw anything at me or something like that. And I'm like, wow, that's progress, So just those little things, or, a kid that you've been trying to build this relationship finally smiles at you, and you're like, okay, I'm doing something right here. Or, you find a note on your desk that says, you're the best teacher, and all the words are spelt wrong. But you're like, oh, I can kind of tell what that says. And that's just, I had a teacher tell me, you hold on to those moments. That way, when it does get tough, you've got all that positive behind you. You pull open that drawer of the past notes and you're like, okay, I'm making a difference here. It is the right thing.
So, okay. So you said that you did like your internship, but it was paid or something because you got alternatively certified. Now that you're older, like, and like, do you know what like the normal process is to become a teacher? And like,
yeah, so
so that's what I want you to do. Tell me more about that. Sorry, go ahead.
So when I went to university, first I went to Alvin Community College, and they were like, oh, hi, glad to see you. And I'm like, yeah, I want to be a teacher. And they're like, cool, And I'm like, well, what do I take? And they're like, just take some basics. So I got a general degree, and they're like, well, then transfer to U of H. And I did that, and I showed up at U of H with my backpack and my lunchbox, and I was like, I want to be a teacher. And they're like, okay. So I said, well, what do I do? And they said, well, what do you want to teach? And I said, I don't know. They said, well, they just came out with this new program that's for alternative certification. So what you do is you get your degree, and then you go back and you take all your teacher classes at a different time. I was like, okay. So I got an interpersonal communications degree with a minor in political science. And then I went off into the world because I graduated in December. So I needed a job. So I was working downtown at the Hyatt Regency. I was a hotel manager. And I decided that is definitely not for me, but loved the people. I got to meet so many different people every day. So then when the school year started back, I was like, oh, okay, I'm ready to go back to teaching. And there was a program through College of the Mainland that I joined. And then they were like, you can do your internship and you get paid. So like day one, I started as a teacher of record. There was no downtime, no anything. And they're like, okay, this is your classroom. These are your kids. Have a nice day.
Okay, so
but we're going to pay you full salary.
Okay, so I'm super intrigued at this because here you go, and you basically, throughout your college experience, you didn't really have an educational focus, okay? And then you show up for your internship on your first, your first job.
Third day of school.
And people had just quit, but yet you came in, you were like, this is what I'm doing. You took control of the class and you changed the culture. And I'm really impressed at how you were able to do that without any mentoring, without any leadership. I mean, because that takes teachers, that took me 7 years to figure out how to do something like that. So what do you think, what would you contribute? How were you able to do that? Is it just part of who you are? Yeah, because that's pretty powerful.
Well, I did do a couple years of substitute teaching when I was at Alvin Community College. So I did some substitute teaching. So I knew kind of what the classroom looked like and a little bit like that. We did have a mentor that was supposed to come into the classroom, but her house was destroyed by Ike and she had a lot of family things. So I didn't even talk to my mentor the entire year. She did three of my observations in May. Mm-hmm. So there was no, get better this or anything like that. And our school didn't, my principal, when we got our STAR test, she was like, we kind of sort of forgot you were here, but you had 94% pass your science STAR test. Where the year before they had 34% pass the year before me.
Wow. That's impressive.
The year of Ike, I know. So I just, chalk it up to it's my passion. And because I was passionate about it, like you were saying, it just comes, and then the kids want to learn because of your passion and the words come to you and they listen because of your passion and building that culture and breaking the things down for them all the way down. And I've just always been, interested in that. And I feel like that's been a good strength for me, even when I was a hotel manager, dealing with the people and getting things what they needed to do. And
so
but I miss the kids.
Well, I want to highlight what you just said because I want to make sure our listeners that this is sinking in, because it wasn't that she had a passion for science. That wasn't even her major. She's a communications major, right? That's just what they said you're going to teach. But it was her passion for kids that drove everything she did, and it opened the kids up to be successful in science. And I know there are lots of teachers, and I've been included in this. We have passion for our subject matter. For a lot of teachers, that's why they do it. I want to be a band director because I love music or band or, here. And I know science teachers who that's why they're teaching science is because they love science, right? But that can only get you so far. And you have to flip that focus, and your passion has to be for people and for kids. And then you can teach them absolutely anything.
Yeah.
And that
go
happened.
ahead, Marjorie. Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, it was leading up from what Pratt was saying. So I had conversations with a colleague, and I feel like sometimes they're on the defense in the classroom. And I said, when you're on the defense, it's not the same. It's high pressure. I know it's stressful. So maybe you can give some insight coming into a classroom that the students, it's like the students, I know it's a student against the teacher, and you had to kind of come in, and it's like you have to kind of get them on your side. Can you give insight to teachers listening that feel like they're on the defense, and what are some steps that you did to get the kids on your side? Because like you said, it wasn't this happened overnight. It was a day-to-day thing. So what are some of the first steps that you did that you can give the teachers that are listening to get kids on their side?
So the first thing that I told the kids when I come in is, guys, look, I'm going to show you respect, but I'm going to expect respect in return. So I just really tried to show them respect. And once they realized that even as kids, that they were worthy of your love and your respect, they were on my side, once they realized that I had their back, that I wasn't going to just give up on them. So it was that every day, and then building those relationships like, hey, I noticed that you have this sticker on your backpack, or one of the kids was into wrestling. So guess what I started watching? Wrestling.
Yeah.
And just being able to go, hey, I watched that last night. So, so-and-so got slammed down, and they're like, oh, and then just that little bit eating away at a time.
That's I've talked about that multiple times on here, where going back to knowing a little bit of the pop culture of what's going on in the world that's resonating with these kids. That's why I know a little bit about like makeup tutorials, because I know that's really big with high school and junior high girls, is like the contouring of the lines and like whatever. Like I'm never going to do that, but I know enough to comment on it to try to build that relationship with that kid.
Well, I've noticed your makeup looks a lot better.
I was gonna say that's why your makeup looking a lot better these days.
And I think that this is really interesting too, because this kind of goes against what I was originally thinking probably for the last year or two, where I would always say, like, you have to be passionate about your content. If you're not passionate about your content, then like, what are you doing? Then you're probably not going to be enjoying it. But I totally overlooked the fact that if you're just passionate about teaching, then that can make up for a lot of you not being passionate about your content.
Yeah. And that speaks a lot, because, there are a lot of teachers who are in a situation where maybe they like this content, but their principal says this year you will be teaching this other content. But you know what?
That's a lot.
Those teachers often end up still successful because of this very fact. So.
Yeah. I don't know what I'm going to really kind of sit and kind of meditate and think about this because I do think that it can weigh on you teaching something that you don't care about. But I also think that if you're just passionate about helping people, that could probably carry you through because you know what these kids need. And it reminds me a lot of when I was in college. I was part of this percussion club thing, and they didn't do anything. And I remember being very upset that it didn't do anything. And when it came time for like the president and the whatever to come about to be reelected, I ran for it. And I remember them asking me, like, how bad do you want this? I was like, I don't want this. I don't want to do this, but nobody's doing it. So I feel like I have to. And like that, just doing that was enough to stir enough people up, so that way we all got serious about it, and it became something. And I think teachers do the same thing. It's like, I don't care about science or I don't care about English, but these kids need this, and I know that I'm good enough at breaking things down, building culture, and I'm passionate about education, that I can step into this role and I can give them what they need.
Yeah. Hey, this is Chris Pratt, and I hope that you're enjoying this episode called The Calling of the Teacher, and it's our interview with Billie Parker. And as you have been listening, Billie is a true inspiration to teaching and to education. And I hope that you're really learning and gaining some perspective on how important relationships are in building the classroom culture, and to see the success that students have whenever those relationships are built. And just to realize that there are things that we have deeply within us that make us good teachers. And so reflecting on those 5 different qualities that make you a strong teacher. And if you're discouraged or you're frustrated and you're wondering if this is for you, or maybe you're thinking about pursuing the profession, this is an opportunity for you to stop and say, hey, I have one of these qualities, or I have all of these qualities. So it's worth me hanging in there, because this is going to make a difference for kids. So thank you for listening today. Our next episode will be a follow-up to this interview, and it'll be the second part of this interview, and you don't want to miss it, because Billie goes into even greater detail on what has really shaped her thinking and her success as an educator, and you'll be truly amazed at some of the insights that she's going to share. So thanks for tuning in today. If you haven't already, I would encourage you to go ahead and subscribe to the podcast so you get notifications every time that we post a new episode. Also, if you have questions or ideas, or you want to get in contact with us, you can either do it by email at info@teachbigger.com, or you can reach out to us on our social media. We're on Twitter and on Instagram. You can check out Teach Bigger there, and you can send us a direct message, share with us some photos, some videos of things you're doing. We would love to see your success as well. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you back here next time.